It was a crisp autumn morning in the small town of Maplewood. The air smelled of fallen leaves, and the golden sunlight pierced through the dense canopy of oak trees that lined the quiet streets. Sarah Parker, a bright and ambitious high school senior, walked briskly toward Maplewood High, with her head buried in a textbook. She had her sights set on an Ivy League future, and every second of her day was meticulously planned. Sarah's parents often reminded her of the importance of hard work and focus. They had immigrated to the U.S. from a modest background, and their sacrifices fueled Sarah's determination. "You are the architect of your own destiny," her mother always said. But despite her stellar grades and a calendar packed with extracurriculars, Sarah felt a nagging emptiness she couldn't quite place. As Sarah approached school, a figure caught her eye. It was Jake Reynolds, leaning casually against the bike rack. Jake was her polar opposite. He was known for skipping classes, barely scraping by academically, and showing more interest in his garage band than in college applications. Despite their differences, Jake's carefree attitude intrigued Sarah, though she'd never admit it. "Hey, Parker," Jake called out, grinning. "Still trying to solve the mysteries of the universe in that book?" Sarah rolled her eyes, but couldn't suppress a smile. "Some of us have a future to think about, Reynolds." "Ah, the future," Jake mused. "Overrated. You should try living in the present sometime. It's not so bad." Sarah shook her head and walked away, but Jake's words lingered. Later that day, during lunch, Sarah noticed Jake sitting under a tree, strumming his guitar. Something about his relaxed demeanor drew her in. Impulsively, she approached him. "Why do you waste so much time?" she blurted out. Jake looked up, surprised but not offended. "Why do you take everything so seriously?" he countered. Sarah hesitated, unsure how to respond. Jake patted the grass beside him, inviting her to sit. Against her better judgment, she did. "Look, I get it," Jake began. "You've got dreams and plans, and that's great. But life isn't just about reaching the destination. It's about enjoying the ride. When was the last time you did something just because it made you happy?" Sarah opened her mouth to answer, but realized she didn't have one. Her life was a series of checkboxes, and fun wasn't on the list. Over the next few weeks, Sarah found herself drawn to Jake's perspective. They started spending time together after school, much to the confusion of their peers. Jake introduced Sarah to things she'd never made time for: hiking, impromptu jam sessions, and even volunteering at the local animal shelter. In turn, Sarah helped Jake with his schoolwork, encouraging him to see the value of responsibility. One Saturday, as they sat on a hill overlooking the town, Jake shared something he'd never told anyone. "My dad used to say the same thing your mom does," he said quietly. "You are the architect of your own destiny." But he was a workaholic. He missed every game, every recital. He thought he was building a future for us, but all I wanted was for him to be there. He passed away 2 years ago, and I realized I didn't want to make the same mistake. Sarah was stunned. She'd always seen Jake as someone who avoided responsibility, not as someone shaped by loss. "I am sorry," she said softly. "I didn't know." Jake smiled faintly. "It's okay. I don't want to spend my life chasing something and miss what's right in front of me." As college application deadlines loomed, Sarah found herself at a crossroads. She was still driven, but Jake's influence had planted a seed of doubt. Was she chasing her parents' dreams or her own? One evening, Sarah sat down with her mother. "Mom," she began hesitantly, "what if I don't want to go to Harvard?" Her mother looked up, startled. "What do you mean?" "I mean, what if I want to take a gap year, travel, volunteer, figure out what I really want?" Her mother's expression softened. "Sarah, your father and I want what's best for you, but we also want you to be happy. If a gap year is what you need, we'll support you." Sarah felt a weight lift off her shoulders. She realized she'd been so focused on meeting expectations that she'd forgotten to listen to her own heart. On the last day of school, Sarah and Jake met at their usual spot on the hill. "So, what's next for you, Parker?" Jake asked. "I am taking a gap year," she said, smiling. "I want to see the world, try new things. I'll figure out the rest as I go." Jake nodded approvingly. "Look at you, living in the present. I am proud of you." "What about you?" she asked. "I am sticking around Maplewood for a while," he said. "But I've been writing songs, and who knows? Maybe I'll take a shot at music school someday. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. You know, Sarah said, you've taught me something important. Oh yeah? What's that? Jake teased. That life isn't just about building a future. It's about living in the moment too. Thank you for reminding me of that. Jake smiled. Anytime, Parker. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Sarah realized that her journey was just beginning. She didn't have all the answers, but for the first time, she was okay with that. Life, she learned, was as much about the questions as it was about the answers. And with friends like Jake, she knew she'd be just fine. Moral of the story: balancing ambition with the present is key to a fulfilling life. While it's important to plan for the future, don't forget to cherish the moments that make life meaningful.